Universalist. I know some of you found refuge in the UU faith after being a part of more structured, or shall I perhaps say oppressive religions. And I know at least a few of you might actually be UU by birth. But I, however, found the UU faith partly by familial connections with my dad, but mostly because I was floating through life as an atheist and I was looking for something more. In college, I went with friends to explore their faiths, attending services at Catholic, Methodist, and Lutheran churches. While intellectually interesting, none of these services tingled my insides with spiritual curiosity. I even attended a Passover Seder and spun dreidels with my Jewish friends. These events were socially fun, but also spiritually empty for me. When I was on vacation, exploring the cities of this nation far away from my hometown in Wyoming, I stumbled into Baptist gospel singing. Amazing Black voices were empowering, but the words of the songs didn't ring true to my own understanding. When I was studying abroad in Africa, I met a witch doctor and was struck at how traditional faith could be blended with colonial Christianity. But again, my own self was having difficulty understanding. It wasn't until law school in Portland that I found Unitarians. The First Unitarian Church in Portland is large and somewhat intimidating as far as UU sanctuaries go. But after first finding it during anti-war protest events and social progressive conferences held there, it seemed only natural that the UU faith would become a part of me. My spiritual being became an extension of my political being. I found my people, and I knew that with their embrace of me, I could embrace them and their spiritual essence. I have to admit that since those law school days, I haven't been the most devout UU. I have gone weeks, and in some cases months, without attending services. It's perhaps too easy to take UU faith less seriously than some. The lack of structure and oppressiveness, and maybe guilt or shame that draws so many to our faith can also be a weakness in keeping us here. However, in many ways, one gets out what one puts in, and I have discovered, or maybe rediscovered several times over, that if I commit to the UU faith commits to me. The fellowship of all of you, the peace, love, and safety I receive from within the warmth of the sanctuary walls, and the guidance I find from the light of the chalice and the meditations we do together have meant so much to me over these past years. Our traditions may seem less rigid than other religions, but they are still spiritual traditions, and they become immense, and they bring immense spiritual meaning to our lives. I particularly appreciate the practice we have of lighting candles to express our joys and concerns, spoken out loud or left unspoken. Especially as the season of darkness approaches, candles have always provided me with light and peace. When I know a friend is hurting or a family member has a celebration, I will light a candle for them, either here at the sanctuary as part of our services or at home through the UU at home practice. Lately, in these more physically isolated yet tech-connected times, I have even gotten into using the candle emoji on my phone to express this spiritual practice. I use the prayer emoji sparingly and much prefer the candle emoji. To me, lighting the candle and letting the flame embrace you and those you love is a UU version of thoughts and prayers. Perhaps we're not sure who we are expressing these thoughts and prayers to, except at the very least to each other, nor do we necessarily expect an answer, but the mere expression of them during our service brings us together. And the lighting of smaller candles from the chalice blends our hopes, our joys, our pains and sorrows, and our love into one candle. During this upcoming season, when blessings of the Christ child are rarely given with or without regard to their receiving welcome, and prayers are offered to mark every world tragedy or event, The chalice lighting ritual and the candle lighting practice I do at home helps to instill the warmth and light of our UU spiritual diversity and understanding. The flame and the smoke it creates goes into the world and adds our UU-ness, our spirituality, our community of love to humanity. In lighting the chalice, we recognize that we are different from other religions in the way we worship together, but we recognize this diversity head on and seek to embrace it to bring love, peace, and understanding rather than division, hate, and indifference. In writing this, I did a little sleuthing on the UU website for the origins of the chalice. Many of you probably know this already, but again, I am not as devout a UU as perhaps I should be. So the origins were new to me. The story goes in 1941, during World War II, the Unitarian Service Commission in Portugal was helping refugees escape the Nazis. Many of the refugees did not have their identification papers, and so the Unitarian Service Commission helped to replace these papers, but in some cases needed to create them again. And in UU creativity, decided those papers needed an official stamp, and the UU chalice symbol was born from the artist hands of Hans Deutsch, an Austrian refugee artist working in Lisbon. According to these roots, the chalice has its beginnings in the Greeks, the Romans, the Christians, and the Jews, or maybe none of the above. The flame is timeless and yet modern, with chalice lighting rituals only becoming widespread over the past 20 years at UU services. Perhaps the most central spiritual practice of a UU is not what we do within the confines of our sanctuary, but rather how we express our spirituality to the rest of our lives. The UU faith teaches us to serve, to give, to volunteer, to connect, to care, and to act. The UU faith teaches us to have intentionality in what we do, to bring our inner beliefs of peace, love, and understanding to all we encounter, human or plant or animal. And I suppose central to all of this is also our quest for knowledge, our understanding that we do not alone hold the answers, and that we must endlessly learn and gain truth from others. That, to be honest, is the part that's a bit hard for me. It's challenging to be forever spiritually confused and curious when others seem to know exactly what they believe. My mom uses the God word all of the time and has no problem offering prayers without hesitation in her mind that they will be answered by her God. My uncle is a United Church of Christ pastor, and he finds honesty and truth in the words of the Bible in a way I know I never will. And my brother remains the atheist in the family, never even wondering if spiritual life would add to his well-being. But like many of us UUs, I often question myself on what I believe and why I believe it. What are the thoughts and prayers of a UU, and what do they mean? Who answers them? Why? When? Our fourth principle of a free and responsible search for truth and meaning can sometimes be haunting. What truth? Whose truth? Is there even a truth? And if there is, how does one find it? How do you know you found it? Will the search ever end? Or is it the journey rather than the destination that matters? Let's just say I am still searching for the answers to all of this. And the idea of a living tradition is wonderful, but yet incredibly difficult, because there is no set path, no formal scripture, no doctrine that tells you where you are to go and why. And yet, perhaps more important now than ever, in this diversity of understanding comes our collective truth. So now we have hymn number 34, though I may speak with greatest fire.